Ningbing took the printed divorce agreement and pushed it in front of me. The paper's corners still held the printer's warmth. I had just finished feeding my father-in-law lunch and was carrying the tray out of his room. A few uneaten pieces of steamed pumpkin were left on the plate. A little broth had spilled and felt faintly hot on my wrist. The family has 180,000 yuan in liquid savings. This apartment is registered under my father's name. The car downstairs was my brother's old one after he upgraded and passed it on to us. Ningbing's voice was as flat as an uncreased sheet of paper. She was stating facts, exactly as she did in every quarterly financial report. You've been out of work for 2 years. You have no source of income. From a legal standpoint, you'll most likely leave with nothing. But I won't be that heartless. I can give you an extra 15,000 yuan. Take it, rent a place outside, and settle down first. I set the tray on the shoe cabinet and pulled out a tissue to wipe the pumpkin juice from my wrist. As for Nian'an, of course he's staying with me. You can barely support yourself. Will you make him live on thin air? Ningbing crossed her arms over her chest. Her expression clearly said, the fact that you even asked that is a joke in itself. I did not meet her eyes. I picked up the pen she had prepared on the coffee table and turned straight to the signature line on the last page. To characters, Fang Yuan. She clearly hadn't expected it. Her mouth opened slightly. The long speech she had prepared jammed in her throat. I pushed the agreement back to her. I don't want the savings. The 60,000 yuan in your personal account. Transfer it to my son Nian'an now. Must come with me. Everything else is yours. She stared at those two signatures. Her face shifted from shock to blank confusion, then from confusion into an indescribable anger. Fang Yuan, have you lost your mind? What are you talking about? I was clear enough. I turned and walked into the bedroom. I opened the wardrobe and began stuffing clothes into a suitcase. Ningbing followed me in. You should be begging me. Fang Yuan, with the situation you're in, you should be on your knees begging me not to leave. What gives you the nerve to ask me for money? And what right do you have to take Nian'an? I stopped moving. When I turned around, she took half a step back. Ningbing, I said, I served your father for 2 years, 730 days, without missing one. Every day I turned him, washed him, changed his urine bag, and did rehab. I fed him liquid food and prevented bed sores. In those 2 years, your mother called me a freeloader in front of outsiders. Your brother treated me like free labor he could summon whenever he wanted. You disliked the medicine smell on me that never washed off. You were not even willing to share a bed with me. I shoved a few old shirts into the suitcase. It was the same suitcase we bought the year we married. The zipper could barely move anymore. That 60,000 yuan is what I deserve. Nian'an is the only person I care about in this family. Click. The zipper closed. As for begging you, I picked up the suitcase and walked past her. I've had enough. My name is Fang Yuan. I am 32. 2 years ago, I worked in mechanical design at an auto parts company. My engineer's income was not top tier, but it was more than enough for a family of 3. Ningbing was my senior at university. She was 2 years older than me. She worked as a regional sales manager at a pharmaceutical company. We had been married for 7 years. Our son, Fang Nian'an, was 5. My father-in-law's accident happened in winter 2 years ago. He went to an old friend's construction site to help watch the place. His foot slipped. He fell from the scaffolding. He suffered a comminuted lumbar fracture. It compressed his spinal nerves. His lower body never felt anything again. Ningbing cried outside the ICU until she collapsed. My mother-in-law, Yao Kuiping, had a heart attack on the spot. She was rushed into the emergency room next door. Ningbing's younger brother, Bahao, was 23 and had just graduated from auto repair school. He tugged at my sleeve. Brother-in-law, my dad is like this now. You can't just ignore him. I do, Ningbing said. He was a core member of her team. She was carrying sales targets for 3 provincial regions. Taking long leave would be the same as quitting. Then Bahao said he had just gone in with someone to open an auto repair shop. It was the exact time he needed to pour money in. He could not step away for even a moment. My mother-in-law clutched her chest and said, she had stents in her heart. She had no strength to care for a paralyzed grown man. So I went to my project team leader, Engineer Liu. I need to resign. He froze for 3 seconds. Fang Yuan, that reducer structure optimization plan you're working on is about to enter validation. If you leave now, you're throwing away a sure thing. Something happened at home. I can't get away. He patted my shoulder. At last, he said this field changes too fast. If you do not touch SolidWorks and CATIA for 2 years, you won't catch up when you come back. I said I had thought it through. The first year, my father-in-law's temper was at its worst. He would take the thin porridge I brought him and fling it onto the floor. Then he would curse in the ugliest words. He cursed me. He cursed by Ningbing. He cursed fate. I understood him. A 57-year-old man could still climb scaffolding that morning, and by afternoon, he could never stand again. Every day, I did range of motion exercises for his joints. I bought 3 rehabilitation textbooks and studied them from cover to cover. Little by little, I learned professional caregiving techniques. By the 2nd year, he could not do without me. When he was thirsty at midnight, he called for Xiaofeng. When he woke in the morning, it had to be me. Who moved him from the bed into the wheelchair? If anyone else did it, he grew agitated. Their hands are too rough. They hurt me. That same year, Bai Ningbing was promoted to regional manager for outstanding performance. Her business strips doubled. Baihao's auto repair shop began turning a profit. He bought a new car. Now and then, he drove back and circled downstairs, before swaggering off again. For 2 years, the household expenses depended on Bai Ningbing's salary and my father-in-law's meager workers' compensation payment. The money I had saved before marriage was drained by my father-in-law's hospital stay and rehab. Sometimes, late at night, after my father-in-law fell asleep, I opened that old laptop and logged onto an engineering outsourcing platform. I took scattered modeling and drafting jobs. The moment I earned a few hundred yuan, I transferred it to Bai Ningbing. She glanced at the number and said, "What is this tiny bit of money good for?" My mother-in-law's attitude toward me slid from gratitude into taking me for granted, then from taking me for granted into contempt. When relatives came over, she pointed at me bustling in the kitchen and said, "This is Xiaofeng. He is not working now. He stays home just to take care of him." The expressions on those relatives' faces, I could draw with my eyes closed. 3 parts sympathy, 7 parts contempt. I endured it. I told myself, my father-in-law cannot do without me. NGÓN needs an intact family. Someone had to make the sacrifice. Until 2 in the morning, 1 month ago, after I finished turning my father-in-law over, I went to the kitchen for a drink of water and heard Bai Ningbing whispering with her mother in the living room. "Mom, do you think Feng Yuan is completely useless now? If he went out looking for work now, besides going into a factory to tighten screws, what else could he do? Weren't you the one who told him to quit back then? How was I supposed to know? He really just sat there like a fool for the whole years. Look at him now. He is like an old man. Just seeing him makes me angry." A client came to Xiao House Company. His name is Chen Boyuan. He is about 35 or 36. Divorced. Works as an agent in the pharmaceutical field. He owns 2 apartments in the city. Drives a Porsche. He saw me once when he came in for car maintenance. He asked Xiao how to introduce us. I did not keep listening. That night, while I was wiping my father-in-law's back, he suddenly reached out and gripped my wrist hard. "Xiaofeng, Dad understands. Go." He forced the word from his throat. A rare clarity flickered in his cloudy eyes. "This family has wronged you." I thought he was rambling. Until today. Packing my things did not take long. I had lived in this home for 2 years, but pitifully little here belonged to me. A few old clothes, a stack of engineering drafting reference books, a laptop on the verge of dying, and an album recording NN's childhood. Bai Ningbing leaned by the bedroom doorframe, arms crossed, staring at me. She probably truly thought I would act like one of those useless men on TV, clinging to her legs and begging through tears for her to change her mind. My mother-in-law hurried over from the living room. "Xiaofeng, what are you doing? It is normal for spouses to argue a little. Does it really have to go this far?" I ignored her. I folded NN's seasonal clothes and packed them into another backpack. "You child, why are you so stubborn? Ningbing just has a sharp tongue. Just coax her a little and it would be fine. Besides, with your situation now, where can you go if you leave our family? Who would take you in?" I zipped up the backpack. "Annie." She froze. "In these 2 years, have you ever properly called me by my name?" The smile on her face stiffened. "It was either Xiaofeng or Hey You, or you just shouted toward the kitchen." I stood up. "My name is Feng Yuan. What kind of attitude is that? Did our Bai family mistreat you? We gave you food and a place to live. I cared for your husband for 2 years. I cut her off. And you call that supporting me?" In the living room, my father-in-law sat in his wheelchair, his back to us. His shoulders trembled once. I picked up my luggage and walked over to him. I crouched down. "Dad, your blood pressure medicine is in the right drawer of the nightstand. Twice a day. Take it after meals. Change the urine bag once before bed. Your back and waist must be moved every 2 hours. Otherwise, you will get bed sores. I wrote all of it on a sheet of paper. It is taped to the refrigerator door. He did not turn around. The only hand he could still move lifted slightly. He waved it gently. I stood up. I looked at Bai Ningbing. I looked straight at Bai Ningbing. Transfer the 60,000 yuan now. NGÂN leaves with me. I signed the agreement. Handle the rest of the paperwork yourself. Bai Ningbing finally snapped out of her shock. Feng Yuan, I carried NGÂN for 9 months and gave birth to him. What right do you have to take him? That 60,000 yuan is my personal savings. Why should I give it to you? I took out my phone and tapped open a recording. Her own voice came from the phone. A client came to Xiao House Company. His name is Chen Boyuan. He is about 35 or 36. Divorced. Works as an agent in the pharmaceutical field. 2 apartments in the city. Drives a Porsche. He saw me once when he came in for car maintenance. He asked Xiao how to introduce us. Bai Ningbing's face went pale at once. 2 choices. I put my phone back in my pocket. First, transfer the money now. NGÂN leaves with me. We part on good terms. Second, we go to court. This recording, plus my 2 years of nursing logs, records of your family's long-term verbal abuse of me, and proof that your family used me as free labor. Your intent to get involved with a third party during our marriage. Who do you think the judge will favor when deciding custody? She stared at me blankly, as if seeing me for the first time. You actually recorded it. If I had not kept something back, I was afraid there would not even be scraps of me left. Her hands were shaking badly. She took out her phone and jabbed at the screen several times, before finally opening the transfer page. My phone vibrated. A bank deposit alert. After confirming the amount was correct, I pushed open the door to the children's room. NGÂN was lying on the carpet, drawing. On a blank sheet of paper, he had drawn a crooked little house. 2 people stood in front of it. 1 big, 1 small. NGÂN. I crouched down. Come with Dad. All right. He looked up at me, then tilted his head and looked at Bai Ningbing standing in the doorway. He was 5, but he understood everything. He did not cry. He did not ask why. He put down his crayon, stood up, reached out and gripped my index finger. Dad, where are we going? Somewhere new. A home for just Dad and NGÂN. I scooped him into my arms. He was so light, like a small loaf of bread fresh from the oven. I picked up the luggage and took one last look at the house that had consumed 2 years of my life. My mother-in-law stood in the living room, her lips trembling, muttering curses under her breath. Bai Ningbing leaned against the wall, tears falling silently down her face. My father-in-law's wheelchair stayed turned away from the door. I did not look back. When we walked out through the compound gate, it was already dark. The November wind poured into my collar. It was icy and biting. NGÄN lay against my shoulder, his voice very small. Dad, did Mom not want us anymore? No. Dad chose to leave them. Then where are we staying tonight? I took out my phone and opened my contacts. I scrolled past the names one by one. Most of them were people I had not contacted in 2 years. My finger stopped on one contact, Feng Zheng, my old university roommate. After graduation, we both got busy. Gradually, we lost touch. We only liked each other's posts now and then. I called him. It rang twice. He picked up, with the clatter of a keyboard on his end. Feng Zheng, it is me. Feng Yuan, can you take me in and let my son and me stay for a few days? The keyboard noise stopped on his end. There was 1 second of silence. Send me your location. I will call a car to pick you up. Feng Zheng lived in an old residential compound on the west side of the city. It was a 2-bedroom, 1 living room apartment. Computer parts and technical books were piled everywhere. It was as messy as a warehouse, but the desktop and floor were perfectly clean. When he came to open the door, he was wearing a pilled hoodie. His hair stuck up in every direction, and there were fingerprints on his glasses. Seeing me with a suitcase in one hand and a child in the other, he asked nothing. He stepped aside and said, "Come in first." He dug a clean set of bedding out of the closet and spread it on the bed in the second bedroom. Then he found a new towel and told me to wipe NGÄN's face. NGÄN was exhausted. Less than 2 minutes after his head touched the pillow, he was asleep. Feng Zheng took 2 bottles of beer from the fridge and handed one to me. What happened? Why the divorce? I spent 2 years as her father's caregiver. She decided I was useless. She wanted to trade me for someone with money. Feng Zheng looked at me for a while. I should have left long ago. I wanted to laugh a little, but the muscles in my face would not obey. That night, I lay on the floor bedding in the second bedroom. NGÄN slept deeply on the bed, his breathing steady. For the first time in 2 years, I lay down, without thinking what time I had to get up and turn someone over, without straining to hear movement from the next room, without arranging tomorrow's medication schedule in my head. Something in my chest felt hollow, yet something else pressed down on it. I could not name the feeling. Early the next morning, I took NGÓN to a nearby kindergarten. I had already checked this one online. It was a 15-minute walk from Fang Zheng's place. NGÓN stood at the kindergarten gate, his little hand clutching my trouser leg. "Dad, will you come pick me up after school? I will be the first one there." He walked into the classroom, looking back every few steps. I stood outside the iron fence for a long time, until his small figure disappeared at the end of the corridor. Then I turned and walked into a nearby internet cafe. I had not touched professional software in 2 years. My hands were painfully rusty. I rented a computer, opened the browser, searched for the latest SolidWorks and CATIA tutorials. I searched the technical updates in industrial design from the past 2 years, and the new trends in intelligent manufacturing. I worked from 9 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. In between, I went to the restroom once, and drank 2 free cups of plain water. I did not eat lunch. That evening, after I picked NGÓN up and brought him back, Fang Zheng had already made dinner: tomato and scrambled eggs, vinegar-fried shredded potatoes, and a bowl of seaweed egg drop soup. NGÓN had been hungry all day. He buried his head and ate hard. I shoveled down a few bites of rice and opened that old laptop. In such a rush, Fang Zheng asked, 60,000 yuan will not last long. You used to do mechanical design? Auto parts. Fang Zheng said no more. After washing the dishes, he sat down beside me and watched the screen for a while. This computer of yours is to beat up. It even lags running 3D modeling. I will make do for now. NGÓN was very good. He sat on the carpet, playing with a box of old building blocks Fang Zheng had found for him. He did not cry or make a fuss. Now and then, he looked up at me. On the 3rd day, I began submitting resumes on job sites. I spent the whole day reorganizing my project portfolio from 2 years ago. I applied to 12 companies. Every application vanished without a trace. That 2-year employment gap was like a glaring red warning label, stuck to the most visible spot on my resume. No HR recruiter was willing to spend extra time on an outdated engineer. Not even 3 minutes. That evening, Fang Zheng came home from work, carrying a large cardboard box. Inside was a used workstation with decent specs, plus a 27-inch professional monitor. Use it for now. Fang Yuan. At our university farewell dinner, you drank 5 shots of baijiu for me. You know I am allergic to alcohol. He adjusted his glasses. Don't keep score over this little favor. I looked at that machine, my throat tightening. That very night, I installed the system, downloaded the latest design software, and built my first test model. My touch came back slowly, but a week later, a company finally scheduled me for an interview. It was a small company that made industrial automation equipment inside a startup park on the east side of the city. The person interviewing me was the technical director. He was in his 40s and wore gold-rimmed glasses. He spoke very quickly. He flipped through the portfolio I had brought and frowned. "Mr. Fang, your most recent project experience is from 2 years ago." Yes, I was out of work during that time for family reasons. I nodded in understanding, but his eyes had already moved away from my work. "All right, go home and wait for our notice." I knew it was over. When I walked out of the industrial park building, the sky was dull and gray. My phone rang. It was a local number. "Unknown." I answered it. "Well, ex-brother-in-law." Baihao's voice came through the line, dripping with sarcasm. "You are pretty capable, aren't you? You made my sister so angry she has not eaten for 2 days. My mother's heart condition flared up again, and she ended up in the hospital. If you have something to say, say it. Delete that recording. Send NM back. Then that 60,000 yuan can count as your severance pay. We will call it settled." "Baihao, are you still half asleep?" My tone turned cold. "Do not push your luck. My mother has already hired a lawyer. She will sue, saying you have no stable income and no ability to raise him. Let her sue." "Baihao." I cut him off. "How many times a day does your father's catheter need disinfecting? What medicine is used on the bed sores on his back? And at night, at what angle do you turn him so he will not fracture a bone because of muscle atrophy?" The other end went silent. "That sister of yours does not know. That mother of yours knows even less. And you, apart from wasting your days in that auto repair shop, what can you actually do?" I said each word slowly. "First, figure out how not to torment that old man to death. Then come talk to me about anything else." I hung up and blocked the number. As I walked along the road, It started raining. I had no umbrella. Cold water poured over my head and ran down my neck. By the time I got downstairs at Fang Zheng's place, I was soaked through. At some point, NGÅN had climbed up to the window. When he saw me, he thumped down the stairs, clutching a dry towel in his hand. "Dad, wipe yourself." I crouched down. He stood on tiptoe and clumsily wiped my hair. "Dad does not have money right now, and I have not found a job yet. Things may be hard for a while." He stopped and lifted his little face to look at me. "Dad, what does hard mean?" "It means that for a long time, we may only be able to eat plain rice and steamed buns. Can we still have ice cream? When Dad finds a job, I will buy you a whole ice cream shop." He thought about it and went on wiping my hair. "Dad, I am not afraid." I held him tightly, burying my face against his small shoulder. The rain was still falling. For the next 2 weeks, I spent my days at Fang Zheng's workstation, practicing like mad to get my touch back. At night, I browsed jobs on the engineering outsourcing platform. My ID was Yuanye. I had actually registered that ID 2 years earlier. Back then, after turning my father-in-law over late at night, I would take small jobs there when I could not sleep. I drew parts diagrams, made simple structural models, and earned a few hundred yuan. Over those 2 years, I had pieced together more than 100 orders. I had built up some reviews on the platform. Now that I had proper equipment, my drafting speed and quality both improved. Within 3 days, I took for jobs and cleared a total of 3,200 yuan. It was not much, but it covered Anna's kindergarten tuition for the month. When Fang Zheng got home from work, he saw the 3D model on my computer screen. "You are taking platform jobs. This reducer gear optimization scheme. Did you make it yourself?" "Just sketched it casually." He pushed up his glasses and stared at the screen for a long while. "Your skill has not slipped. It is even stronger than 2 years ago." Those 2 years at home, I read technical papers whenever I could not sleep at night. "Your theoretical foundation is solid. Only my hands were rusty." Fang Zheng sat down. "Fang Yuan, there is something I want to talk to you about. I have a client in industrial robotics integration. They are called Ruiheng Intelligent. Recently, they have been looking for a technical scheme for a new slope reducer. They are unhappy with everything the market suppliers have offered. When I was building a software system for them, I heard their technical director mention it several times. My hands stopped moving. Back when you were at the company, did you work on a reducer structural optimization project?" "I did, but I resigned before it was finished. Later, I used my spare time to refine the scheme myself and applied for a utility model patent. The patent is under my name. It is personal and has nothing to do with the company. I developed that scheme after work on my own, using my own design approach." Fang Zheng looked at me. "Why did you not say so earlier? How much can one utility model patent be worth? Besides, it is only a theoretical scheme. It has not been physically validated." Fang Zheng did not answer, but I noticed that in his room that night, he made a very long phone call. The days passed one by one. My reputation on the outsourcing platform began to grow. The handle Yuanye gradually gained repeat clients. Several major clients started asking for me by name. My rates rose from a few hundred yuan per job to 3,000 or 5,000. But supporting NGÅN and myself was still barely making ends meet. I had already spent nearly 10,000 yuan out of the 60,000. Rent was 2,500 yuan a month. I rented a single room near Fang Zheng's place. I could not keep staying in someone else's home. And Anna's kindergarten fees, food, and clothes, and all the small expenses added up. Fang Zheng insisted on refusing any money for the half month I had stayed with him. "Bring this up again, and I will get angry with you." On the day we moved into the rental, NGÅN helped me carry a small cardboard box. It was filled with his drawings and building blocks. The single room was 12 square meters, 1 bed, 1 desk, and 1 wardrobe. There was no kitchen. The shared bathroom was at the end of the corridor. NGÅN taped his drawings to the wall one by one, then stepped back to paces to look. "Dad, this home is so small. It is a little small, but it is clean, and that is enough." He sounded far too grown up. A 5-year-old should not have to say things like that. I rubbed his head. "NGÅN, when Dad earns money, I will get you a bigger home." "How big?" "Big enough for your own room. There will be a balcony where we can grow flowers, and a kitchen, so Dad can cook for you. Then, will there be room for a puppy?" "Not yet," he nodded seriously. "Then I will wait." On the 3rd day after we moved into the rental, Ningbing called. When her name flashed on the caller ID, I hesitated for 2 seconds. Then answered. "Fang Yuan, Have you handled NN's kindergarten transfer paperwork? His old kindergarten homeroom teacher called to ask me, saying NN has not been there for a month. I changed schools for him. It is near where I live. I handled the paperwork myself. There was silence on the other end for a few seconds. Where you live has nothing to do with me now. Fang Yuan, he is my son. I have the right to know. Once the divorce procedures are finished and custody is settled on paper, we can talk. I was about to hang up when her tone suddenly changed. Fang Yuan, are you really going to raise NN alone? What else? With your current situation, how much can you earn in a month? Have you thought about NN's education, daily life, and medical care? You do not need to worry about that. I am his mother. My mother said that if you are willing to send NN back, we can give you 2,000 yuan a month for living expenses. Consider it compensation. 2,000 yuan. I gave a laugh. By Ningbing, who is taking care of your father now? She said nothing. You hired a caregiver, did you not? How much a month? 5 or 6,000. Still silence. After I cared for him for 2 years, you offered 1,000 yuan to buy away my son. Is this how your family does business? Fang Yuan, can you not put it like that? Handle the divorce agreement. Tell me when it is done. Until then, do not call this number again. I hung up and tossed the phone onto the desk. NN brought a drawing back from kindergarten. There were 2 people in it, one big and one small, holding hands, standing under a huge sun. The teacher told us to draw our family. Who did you draw? Dad and me. I took that drawing and put it on the most visible spot on the rental room wall. Another week passed. I landed a big order on the outsourcing platform. A precision instrument company needed a complete transmission mechanism design plan. The budget was 12,000 yuan. The deadline was 2 weeks. It was the largest order I had received since starting over. I spent 3 days on the preliminary plan, drew 19 drafts, and scrapped it at least 6 times. At 2 in the morning on the 4th day, NN turned over in bed and mumbled in his sleep, "Dad, ice cream." I glanced at him, then kept staring at the 3D model on the screen. During the day, Feng Zheng sent me a message. The Ruiheng intelligent client I told you about, their technical director, is very interested in your reducer patent. He wants to know the specific parameters. If it is convenient, I will give him your contact information. I thought about it and replied with one word. Wait. Wait for what? Until I finish the work in my hands. I cannot split my focus. Feng Zheng sent a speechless emoji. 2 weeks later, I delivered the transmission mechanism plan. After reviewing it, the client was extremely satisfied. They not only paid the full 12,000 yuan at once, but also added a 3,000 yuan bonus. Teacher Yuanye, next time we have a project, we will come to you again. With 15,000 yuan in hand, I took NN out for a good meal. Lanzhou hand-pulled noodles at the gate of our compound. He ordered a large bowl, with an extra egg. He ate until sweat covered his forehead. Dad, these noodles are delicious. Let us eat them every week. Really. Back at the rental room, I turned on the computer and sent Feng Zheng a message. Send me the contact information for Ruiheng. Feng Zheng gave me the WeChat of Engineer Zhao, Ruiheng Intelligence Technical Director. I did not add him right away. Instead, I spent 3 days organizing the technical documents for my reducer patent from beginning to end. I added detailed theoretical calculations and simulation data. That plan from 2 years ago had been limited by the conditions at the time. Many parameters were only estimates. For the past 2 years, though I was home caring for my father-in-law, my mind had never stopped. On sleepless nights, inside my head, I turned that plan over and over, optimizing it more times than I could count. Now that I had equipment, I pulled everything from my mind onto the screen. The improved plan was at least 3 levels above the version from 2 years ago. When Feng Zheng saw my simulation report, his glasses almost fell off. What on earth have you been thinking about these past 2 years? This increase in transmission efficiency. If the data is real, no similar product on the market can match it. The data is real, but it has not been verified through actual testing. It is only theoretical. That is still terrifyingly good. I added Engineer Zhao on WeChat. My self-introduction was simple. Feng Yuan, mechanical design engineer, holder of a utility model patent for slope reducer structural optimization. Engineer Zhao replied quickly. Feng Zheng mentioned you to me. The technical path of your patent closely matches the project direction we are working to break through. Could you send over a technical abstract? I sent him the documents I had prepared. After that came the waiting. The process was hard to endure. I was not sure How much weight an individual patent, with no company behind it, could really carry in the industry. I waited 3 days. On the morning of the 4th day, while I was making milk for NGÅN, Engineer Zhao's message popped up. Fang Yuan, our vice president, Qin Yuanshan, has reviewed your proposal. He takes it very seriously and would like to meet with you this week. Would that work? I put down the milk carton. Yes, you set the time and place. It was set for Thursday afternoon. Ruiheng Intelligence Office was in an office building in the high-tech district. It occupied 3 entire floors. The young woman at the front desk watched me walk in wearing a washed-out old jacket. A flicker of hesitation crossed her face. Who are you here to see? Engineer Zhao arranged it. She made a call to confirm, and her attitude turned polite at once. Engineer Zhao came down personally to meet me. He was a man in his early 40s, wearing a safety helmet, clearly just back from the workshop. He had forgotten to take it off. Engineer Feng, finally I get to meet you in person. He took me up to the 17th floor and led me straight into a spacious meeting room. 2 people were seated inside. One was Ruiheng's vice president, Qin Yuanshan. He was in his 50s with graying hair and looked full of energy. Beside him sat a young man of about 30. Engineer Zhao introduced him as Hanjia, the company's product R&D supervisor. Mr. Feng, please sit. Qin Yuanshan stood and shook my hand. After reading your proposal, to be honest, I have not seen anything this exciting in a long time. I sat down and placed the detailed technical materials I had brought on the table. President Qin, you are too kind. At present, this plan only has theoretical data. It has not been verified by actual testing. I know. That is why I wanted to discuss it face-to-face today. If we provide the testing conditions and engineering team support, would you be willing to join the cooperative development? I did not answer immediately. Beside us, Hanjia was flipping through my materials. Suddenly, he looked up. Engineer Feng, I have a question. The tooth profile correction curve in your plan does not seem to use the conventional involute curve. On the optimization path, I used an improved double-arc tooth profile. That approach is rare. How did you come up with it? I thought about it for 2 years. I was not bragging. On every sleepless night of those 2 years, this was the thing turning over and over in my mind. Other people counted sheep in bed. I drew gears in my head. Hanjia glanced at Qin Yuanshan. Qin Yuanshan smiled. Mr. Feng, let me share a preliminary idea. Ruiheng is willing to pursue technical cooperation by purchasing exclusive authorization for your patent. During the authorization period, you would serve as a technical consultant and participate in our R&D project. We would pay you a consultant fee and patent use fee. As for the specific numbers, you can consider them first. I do not need to consider them. All 3 of them looked at me. President Qin, I appreciate your sincerity. But before we discuss any specific figures, I have only one condition. Go ahead. Ownership of the patent will not be transferred. Only its use will be authorized. Qin Yuanshan nodded. That can be discussed. When I walked out of the Ruiheng building, it was still light outside. The winter sunlight was thin, but it carried a little warmth on my body. I stood at the entrance of the office building and took out my phone to check the time. 4:30. Time to pick NGÅN up from kindergarten. Perfect timing. There was one unread message on my phone. It was from Feng Zheng. How did the meeting go? I replied with 2 words, not bad. He replied instantly. What do you mean, not bad? Give me a straight answer. They want to buy patent authorization. I did not agree outright. I told them to make an offer. Feng Zheng sent a long string of exclamation marks. Then came one sentence. Fang Yuan, while you were out there, when you were emptying bedpans and cleaning up after your father-in-law, did you somehow work your brain into overdrive? I tucked my phone back into my pocket. For the first time, an indescribable feeling rose in my chest. It was not excitement. It was not pride either. It was the feeling that I could finally take a breath. The matter with Ruiheng was still moving forward, but my life was disrupted first. On Friday evening, I went to the kindergarten to pick up NGÓN. As soon as I reached the gate, I saw someone standing by the iron fence from a distance. Ningbing was wearing a dark gray coat. Her hair was tied back neatly. She was carrying 2 bags. One held fruit, and the other held children's milk. NGÓN came out of the classroom. When he saw her, his steps paused. Mom, Ningbing crouched down and opened her arms. NGÓN did not run to her. Instead, he turned his head to look at me. I walked over. How did you find this place? I am his mother. How hard can it be to find out which kindergarten my child attends? She stood up and looked around the kindergarten. Old residential buildings, Electric scooters parked haphazardly along the roadside. A shabby, rundown street. You are letting NGÓN go to school in a place like this. The teachers at this kindergarten are very good. No matter how good the teachers are, the facilities are what they are. His old kindergarten had bilingual teaching. It had piano lessons, fencing lessons, and children's programming classes. By Ningbing. What exactly are you trying to do? She looked at me. Can I not come see my son? NGÓN kept standing beside my leg, silent the whole time. By Ningbing crouched down and handed him the bag of fruit and milk. Mom bought you your favorite cherries. NGÓN took the bag and said softly, "Thank you, Mom." By Ningbing's eyes reddened at once. She stood up. Her voice was pressed very low. "Fang Yuan, look at the kind of life you are giving him. I also asked about that rental room you live in. 12 square meters, shared bathroom. You do not even have a proper kitchen. It is temporary. What are you going to do to leave this temporary arrangement behind? How much can you earn in a month now? Enough to get by." Her voice rose a little. "The padded jacket NGÓN is wearing is from last year. The sleeves are already too short. You are going to let him get through winter in that. I will buy him a new one. When those bits and pieces of freelance work finally add up. Fang Yuan, a child cannot afford to be held back." By Ningbing. I cut her off. "If you came only to see NGÓN, then you have seen him. Leave the things and go. If you came to persuade me to hand NGÓN back, then you can leave right now." She stared hard at me. "You have changed. 2 years really can change a person." She held her now empty hands and stood there for a few seconds. Then she turned and left. NGÓN held that bag of cherries and said nothing the whole way back. When we returned to the rental room, he sat on the bed and took the cherries out of the bag one by one, lining them up in a row. "Dad, why were you and Mom crying? She missed you. Then why does she not live with us?" Because in the world of adults, some things cannot be explained clearly. NGÓN thought for a moment. Will she come see me again? She will. He thought for a while longer. "Dad, can I share half the cherries with you? Dad does not like sweet things." So, he slowly finished that bag of cherries by himself. After he was done, he carefully spat all the pits onto a tissue, folded it up, and threw it into the trash. A 5-year-old should not be this sensible. On the 3rd day after Bai Ningbing's visit, I received a phone call. The number showed as local, but it was not one I recognized. "Excuse me, is this Mr. Fang Yuan?" The woman's voice was polite and professional. "Yes, hello. This is the Family Trial Division of Jiangping District People's Court. I am a staff member. There is a summons. There is a summons for your child custody dispute case. The plaintiff is Ms. Yao Kuaibing." I froze for a second. What is her claim? "A petition to change custody of the minor Fang Nian'an. The hearing is scheduled for the 12th of next month at 9 in the morning. Please bring your identification and appear in court on time." After hanging up, Yao Kuaibing, my former mother-in-law, she had really gone that far. I sat at the desk, looking at the unfinished design drawings on my computer screen. My mind spun quickly through the possibilities. Then I called Fang Zheng. "Yao Kuaibing has sued me. She wants NGÓN's custody." "What? Did you not already sign an agreement?" "The divorce agreement says custody belongs to me, but as his maternal grandmother, she is suing me, claiming I have no stable job or income, and am unfit to raise him. Can you win?" "Hard to say. The court looks at actual caregiving ability. Right now, I really do not have a fixed salary. I live in a rental room. The conditions are plain to see." Fang Zheng was silent for a while. "You need a lawyer. I know, but good lawyers are not cheap. I will find one for you. Do not worry about the cost for now." Fang Zheng gave a wry smile. "You still have over a month. Start by getting your proof of income together. Your platform order records, account statements, and client reviews. Print them all out. And that patent of yours. What stage are things at with Ruiheng? I am still waiting for their cooperation proposal. Push them, if before the hearing. You can get a formal letter of intent for cooperation, or a technical consultant appointment letter. It will help prove your income is stable." After I hung up, I opened WeChat and messaged Engineer Zhao. "Engineer Zhao, Ruiheng's cooperation proposal. About when can it be finalized?" He replied half an hour later. "It is still going through internal procedures. NGÓN takes it very seriously. But you know how it is. Big companies make decisions slowly. It may still take 2 to 3 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks. The hearing was on the 12th of next month. The timing was balanced on a knife's edge. The days that followed became unbearably tense. By day, I took orders like a madman. I accepted every platform project I could handle. At most, I had 4 projects running at once. I worked until 3 in the morning and dragged myself up at 6 to take NGÅN to school. Feng Zheng found me a lawyer. His surname was He. His name was He Mingcheng. He was in his early 30s and specialized in family disputes. We met at his law firm. The office was not large, but the walls were covered with pennants and certificates. After He Mingcheng finished reading all the materials I brought, he leaned back in his chair. The situation is not too bad, but it is not optimistic either. Let us talk about what works in your favor. First, the divorce agreement states in black and white that custody belongs to you. Second, you have the fact of actual caregiving. The child has been living with you. Third, the other side was at fault. First, you have recordings of your ex-wife planning an affair during the marriage. As for the disadvantages, first, you have no fixed employer and no stable salary. Freelance income fluctuates too much. The court may consider it insufficiently stable. Second, your housing conditions really are poor. A 12 square meter rental room with a shared bathroom. In a judge's eyes, that is not a proper environment for a child to grow up in. Third, the plaintiff is the child's maternal grandmother. She can argue that her family is separate property, that your ex-wife has a stable, high income, and that the child's previous education resources were better. So, the key is whether you can prove before the hearing that you have sufficient financial ability and a stable living arrangement. I nodded. Lawyer He, if I can, before the hearing, get a formal technical consultant appointment letter from a company. That would help a great deal. With an appointment letter, it would be equivalent to proof of fixed income. The higher the amount, the better. I calculated it in my head. Ruiheng's proposal was still going through the process. If it got stuck, all I would have left were the records from the outsourcing platform and a monthly income of just over 10,000 yuan, against by Ningbing, and her regional manager's salary of 300,000 to 400,000 yuan a year. What would the judge think? There is one way. He Mingcheng flipped through the materials. You have something here. A detailed nursing log from when you cared for your former father-in-law. This is very valuable. It proves that you have a strong sense of responsibility and real caregiving ability. Also, the child has been doing well while living with you. His kindergarten attendance records and teacher evaluations can all serve as supporting evidence. I will prepare those. Also, that recording, the conversation where your ex-wife discussed that man named Chen Boyuan. I suggest that during the hearing, unless absolutely necessary, you do not use it first. Why? Because once you bring it out, the judge may think there is serious hostility between both sides. Then she may lean toward a compromise, such as ruling for joint custody or alternating custody. For you, the ideal result is sole custody. So, do not make the atmosphere too tense. Understood? But if the other side attacks first, then you bring it out. It will be more effective that way. I stood and shook his hand. Lawyer He, thank you. Thank me after we win. 2 weeks before the hearing, things took a turn. Baihao found where I lived. That afternoon, I was rushing to finish the final work on a project. Someone started pounding on the door. I opened it, and Baihao was standing in the hallway. Behind him was a man in a suit. He looked about 35 or 36. He was not tall. His hair was combed slick and glossy. On his wrist was an expensive watch. I recognized him, although I had only ever seen him once, by chance in a photo on by Ningbing's phone. Chen Boyuan, my ex-brother-in-law. Long time no see. Baihao had both hands in his pockets, his face full of smug pride. What do you want from me? Nothing major. He stepped aside to make room for the man behind him. Let me introduce him. This is Chen Boyuan. Chen Boyuan is my sister's good friend now. Chen Boyuan gave me a nod. It was polite, but the way he looked me up and down could not hide his condescension. Mr. Feng, I have heard a lot about you. Say what you came to say. I have known Xiao Yao for some time now. Chen Boyuan spoke slowly and evenly. He has been thinking about NGÅN all this time. She often cannot sleep at night. What does that have to do with you? What I mean is, NGÓN needs a better environment to grow up in. I own 2 apartments in the city. One is a school district apartment. It feeds into experimental primary school. If NGÓN stays with his mother, his education resources and living conditions can improve in every way. I leaned against the doorframe and looked at him. Are you here to negotiate for my ex-wife? This is not a negotiation. It is offering a better choice. Chen Boyuan, are you misunderstanding something? His brow twitched. NGÓN is my son. He is staying with me. He does not need anyone's school district apartment, and he does not need anyone's education resources. If you want to play the good man, sort out your own affairs first. Have you finished your own divorce procedures? Yuan's expression froze for an instant. Baihao snorted beside him. Fang Yuan, what right do you have to say that? Look at this place you live in. He craned his neck and glanced inside. 12 square meters. You do not even have a decent desk. You want NGÂN to grow up in this dump. Can you really say you are doing right by him? Whether I am doing right by him is not for you to judge. And by how? I looked at him. How has your dad been lately? I heard the caregiver you hired quit after less than 2 weeks. His face fell at once. How do you know that? Not everyone can put up with your father's temper. The first caregiver ran off. You still have not found a second one, have you? Your mother's back cannot handle it. Your sister has to work. And what about you? You do not even know how to disinfect a catheter. The hallway went quiet. Stop wasting time here. Go home and take proper care of your father. Stop running around every other day. I stepped back. Then I shut the door. Baihao's curses came from outside. They came in broken bursts. Soon, there was no sound at all. Yuan must have dragged him away. I returned to the desk. I stared at the screen. But my mind was not on the project in front of me. Yuan's appearance proved one thing. On Ningbing's side, Yao Kuiping was not the only one pushing this. The whole setup was bigger than I had thought. A school district department, education resources, stable income, a complete family structure. If all those conditions were laid before the judge, they would be set against my 12 square meter rental and my unstable freelance income. I had to get Ruiheng's appointment letter before the hearing. I immediately messaged Engineer Zhao. Engineer Zhao, about the cooperation plan. I need a definite timeline. Can it be done before the 12th of next month? 5 minutes passed. Today, I will push Qin Yuanshan for an answer. Push President Qin to give you an answer. I waited another week. Ruiheng's reply came. But it did not come from Engineer Zhao. Qin Yuanshan called me personally. Mr. Feng, our internal team has approved the cooperation plan. But before we formally sign, our technical committee still needs a face-to-face technical validation meeting to assess whether your plan is feasible in real-world use. The time is set for Thursday. The location is our headquarters. No problem. Also, regarding the cooperation model, our proposal is this. Ruiheng will pay compensation as an annual technical consultant fee, and at the same time, based on sales from the patent authorization, plus a commission based on patent authorization sales. He named a figure. The hand holding my phone went still. Mr. Feng, did you hear me? I heard you, President Qin. If you think the amount is too low, we can discuss it. No, I just did not expect it to be this much. Mr. Feng, his tone turned serious. You may not realize it, but the problem your reducer plan solves is a technical bottleneck that has trapped our whole industry for nearly 10 years. There are at least 100 domestic companies working on slow producers, but the ones that can truly compete in precision and lifespan with imported products can be counted on one hand. If your plan is validated, what that means, I think you understand even better than I do. I said nothing. Of course I understood. When I resigned 2 years ago, I treated that plan as an unfinished obsession. Every sleepless night over those 2 years, it kept turning in my mind. Thousands of times. Tens of thousands. From a rough idea, it became a complete technical system. I had not wasted those 2 years. Every minute of those 2 years, apart from feeding medicine, turning him, washing him, and cooking, all the mental strength I had left went into this. President Qin, about the technical validation meeting. I will prepare. What materials should I bring? The full technical documents and simulation data. A physical model would be even better. But I know, your conditions are limited. The simulation data will be enough. After hanging up, I had not been sitting long when NGÂN came home from school. When NGÂN came home from school, he was holding a little red flower sticker from kindergarten. Dad, teacher said I behaved the best today. She gave me a little red flower. That is wonderful, Dad. What is wrong? Did something good happen? Yes, something good happened. What good thing? Dad may be able to buy you a new padded coat soon. What about ice cream? There will be ice cream too. And the puppy? About the puppy. We need to wait a little longer. He beamed. He peeled off the little red flower and stuck it on the back of my hand. The night before Dad's technical validation meeting, I barely slept. I checked all the materials 3 times. I went through the simulation data twice. I even revised every slide of the PPT again and again. At 1 in the morning, Fang Zheng messaged me. Do not be nervous. That plan of yours, even if it only reaches 60% of its theoretical value, will still beat every competitor on the market. Not nervous? Go lie to someone else. The night before your graduation defense, you were so nervous you ate 3 bowls of instant noodles. I was just hungry. Sleep early. The next morning, I put on a fairly decent shirt. Fang Zheng had lent it to me, and it was one size too big. But it was still better than my faded t-shirts. The meeting room at Ruiheng headquarters was twice as large as the last one. 7 or 8 people sat on both sides of the long conference table. Besides Qin Yuanshan, Engineer Zhao, and Hanjia, there were several faces I did not recognize. They were clearly members of the technical committee. The technical validation meeting lasted 2.5 hours. For the first hour, I presented my plan. On the projection screen were the 3-dimensional model and simulation animation I had made. The gear meshing process was magnified hundreds of times. Every force point and every stress distribution curve was marked with absolute clarity. The next hour and a half was for questions. The questions ranged from transmission precision to fatigue life, from material selection to process feasibility. Each one was sharper than the last. I answered them one by one. 2 years of repeated analysis had not been wasted. I had considered almost every question. For every possible technical flaw, I had a backup plan. The hardest question came from an older engineer with half gray hair. Xiao Feng, this improved double-arc tooth profile of yours requires extremely high machining precision. Can existing gear grinders achieve it? Conventional grinders cannot. But if we pair them with the method I mentioned in the appendix, that distributed machining process, then existing equipment can do it. Appendix, he flipped through the materials. I did not see it. I only added it last night. I opened the file on my USB drive and projected that process plan onto the screen. The old engineer studied it for a while. He said nothing. Then he took off his glasses and wiped them. He turned to Qin Yuanshan. Yuanshan, this young man, how do you plan to use him? Qin Yuanshan smiled. That depends on what Mr. Feng wants. After the technical validation meeting ended, Qin Yuanshan kept me behind for a private half-hour talk. The terms he offered were another step higher than what he had mentioned on the phone. An annual technical consultant fee, plus patent authorization commission, plus an extra bonus if the plan entered mass production. I did not bargain. President Qin, I only have one request. Can the contract and appointment letter be signed this week? It is urgent. I need them for a personal matter. He glanced at me and did not ask more. I will get them to you before Friday. Walking out of Ruiheng's building, I stood by the road and watched the traffic flow past. The hearing was in 5 days. If Ruiheng's appointment letter arrived by Friday, I would have formal proof of income, together with these months of transaction records from the outsourcing platform, and Anna's kindergarten attendance, the teacher's comments, and my 2-year nursing log. It would be enough. It should be enough. I took out my phone and sent Lawyer He a message. Ruiheng Intelligence Technical Consultant Appointment Letter. I can have the annual salary figure by Friday. I will send you the exact figure this afternoon. He Mingchang replied quickly. Good. Bring the original appointment letter. That should basically shut down the other side's attack. About you having no stable income. What else do I need to prepare? Organize the records of daily life from these past few months. Routine, meals, study, physical condition. Photos would be best. Also, the kindergarten teacher's comments. If you can get them in writing, even better. Understood. Friday morning, I went to Ruiheng and signed the contract. I received the appointment letter. Black text on white paper, with the company red seal. Technical consultant, Fang Yuan. I folded that paper carefully and placed it in the folder NGÅN had used for his last drawing. The folder was already very old, but everything inside it was my lifeline. On the day of the hearing, the weather was bitterly cold. On the steps outside Jiangping District Court, a thin layer of frost had formed. I arrived very early. At 8:20, the court had not opened yet. He Mingchang arrived, holding a briefcase. Did you bring all the materials? All here? At 8:40, the other side arrived. Yao Kuaiping, by Ningbing, by Hao, and their lawyer. He was a balding man in his 40s. Chen Boyuan was there too. He had no right to appear in court, but he stood below the courthouse steps, wearing a refined dark blue coat, both hands tucked in his pockets. When Bai Ningbing saw me, her expression was complicated. Yao Kuaiping glanced at me and turned her head away. Bai Hao, however, gave me a wide grin. That smile was full of malice. Ex-brother-in-law, once the result comes out today, NGÅN should be coming home. I ignored him. We entered the courtroom. Both sides took their seats. The judge was a woman around 50, surnamed Zhou, and she looked very experienced. The plaintiff side, state your claims. The other side's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, my client, Ms. Yao Kuiping, is the minor being raised by the defendant, Fang Nian'an's maternal grandmother. Ms. Yao believes that after the divorce, the defendant, Mr. Fang Yuan, does not possess the basic conditions to independently raise a minor child. Specifically, first, the defendant has no fixed employer and no stable source of income. Objection. He Mingsheng stood up. The defendant has already obtained from Ruiheng Intelligent Technology Co., Limited, a formal technical consultant appointment letter. The annual consultant fee is, he stated a figure. The opposing lawyer's expression changed. Yao Kuiping turned and said something to Bai Ningbing. A flash of surprise crossed Bai Ningbing's face. Please continue, the judge said. The opposing lawyer cleared his throat. Second, the defendant's living conditions are extremely crude. According to our investigation, the defendant is currently renting a room of only 12 square meters, with no private kitchen or bathroom. It is unsuitable for a minor to live in long term. He Mingsheng pulled out a document. Your Honor, the defendant signed a new rental contract last week. A one-bedroom apartment with a private kitchen and bathroom. 58 square meters. A 10-minute walk from the kindergarten. The contract is here. I had just moved there 2 days earlier, after Ruiheng's first advance payment arrived. The first thing I did was change homes. The opposing lawyer flipped through the documents. He clearly had not expected any of this. Third, he continued, the plaintiff's side believes that the child's mother, Ms. Bai Ningbing, as a regional sales manager at a pharmaceutical company, has stable income and a respectable job, and the plaintiff's side has independent property and educational resources. Your Honor, He Mingsheng raised his hand. We ask the court to note the following facts. He stood up and opened his briefcase. This is the nursing log from during the defendant's marriage, when he cared for the plaintiff's husband and the defendant's former father-in-law, Mr. Bai Guodong, for 2 full years. Daily medication records, turning times, diet details, and rehabilitation routines. 730 days in total, without a single day missed. He handed over a thick-bound stack of documents. The judge took it and turned a few pages. Her brow moved slightly. To care for his former father-in-law, the defendant voluntarily resigned from his job and provided full-time care for 2 years. During that time, the defendant not only handled all caregiving duties, but also taught himself professional rehabilitation knowledge. The former father-in-law's attending doctor stated that Mr. Bai Guodong could maintain his current physical condition, largely because of the defendant's care. The judge looked at the opposing lawyer. Does the plaintiff's side object to this? The lawyer turned to look at Yao Kuiping. Yao Kuiping opened her mouth, but made no sound. Bai Ningbing lowered her head, staring at her own hands. Continue, the judge said. He Mingsheng shifted tone. In addition, we hope the court will understand the following circumstances. The defendant resigned at the request of the woman and her family. After resigning, all of the defendant's personal savings were used for his former father-in-law's medical and rehabilitation cost. Throughout the 2 years of care, the defendant used his nighttime rest hours to take technical freelance work to help cover household expenses. But all of that income was handed over to the woman. However, he paused. The defendant's sacrifices in the marriage received neither the respect nor the repayment they deserved. Instead, he endured long-term verbal belittlement from the woman's family and emotional oppression. During the marriage, the woman herself had already begun siding against him. The lawyer stood up. The plaintiff's marital situation is irrelevant to this custody dispute. It is relevant, He Mingsheng said. It directly concerns the woman's character and her attitude toward family responsibility, and that is exactly what the court must consider when deciding custody. The judge raised her hand slightly. Both sides, calm down first. Does the plaintiff's side have anything else to add? The opposing lawyer spoke quietly with Yao Kuiping and Bai Ningbing for a while. Then Yao Kuiping suddenly stood up. Judge, I will say just one thing. Go ahead. That Fang Yuan, is a useless man. It was only right for him to care for my husband. That was his duty as a son-in-law. What right does he have to claim credit for it? My grandson lives with him in a rental room, eating plain boiled noodles. You call that raising a child? My daughter earns 20 or 30,000 yuan a month. For a moment, she nearly said Chen Boyuan's name out loud, but the opposing lawyer tugged her back, and she swallowed it down. My daughter has the means to give NGÓN the best life. What is he compared to that? The courtroom went quiet for several seconds. The judge looked at me. Defendant, do you have anything to say? I stood up. Your Honor, I will say only 3 things. First, for the past 2 years, I got up at 6 every morning to turn Dad over, feed him his medicine, and wash him. Every night at 2, I got up again to prevent bed sores. The 3 people from the plaintiff's side sitting here cannot clearly say how many times a day Mr. Bai Guodong takes his medicine, or how many pills he takes each time. Second, after I resigned, not one person in that family called me by my name. They called me Xiao Fang. They even called me Hey You. They even called me the one at home. Even said in front of relatives that I was freeloading at home. Third, I glanced at Bai Ningbing. Since NGÂN was born, he has been sick 3 times, twice with a fever. All 3 times, I carried him to the emergency room in the middle of the night. On all 3 registration forms, in the accompanying family member field, the name written there was mine. The first time he learned to say Dad was when he was 11 months old. The first time he tied his own shoelaces was last month. His favorite color is blue. When he draws, he always starts from the upper right corner. The courtroom was very quiet. Does the plaintiff's side know any of these things? No one spoke. The judge lowered her head and wrote something down. Do either side have any additional evidence to submit? The opposing lawyer flipped through his folder. After a moment of hesitation, Your Honor, the plaintiff's side requests to submit one additional piece of evidence. This is a family environment assessment report commissioned by the plaintiff's side. It compares both parties' living conditions and educational resources. He was just about to hand the document over when the phone in my pocket suddenly vibrated once, then twice, then 3 times. It kept vibrating, and the judge frowned. Defendant, please turn off your phone. Sorry. I took out my phone and prepared to shut it down. The caller ID on the screen made me pause. Ruiheng Intelligent, Yuan. I declined the call and switched my phone to silent. But in that instant, as I looked down, I saw that before calling, Yuan had also sent a WeChat message. It contained only one sentence. Mr. Feng, there is something extremely important I must tell you. It concerns the real-world test data for your patent. After the hearing ended, the judge announced that judgment would be issued at a later date. I walked out through the courthouse doors. The first thing I did was call Yuan back. President Qin, I was in court just now and could not answer. No problem, Mr. Feng. I have news here that I must tell you in person. It is not convenient over the phone. When are you free? Right now is fine. 40 minutes later, I was sitting in Yuan's office at Ruiheng Intelligent. Engineer Zhao and Hanjia were there too. All 3 of them looked strange. It did not look like bad news, but it carried something beyond ordinary good news. What is it? Mr. Feng. Yuan took a printed test report and pushed it in front of me. For your scheme, we used a rapid prototype for the first round of bench testing. The results are out. I took the report and turned to the data page. The transmission precision was 12% higher than my simulation prediction. The fatigue life exceeded the predicted value by nearly 20%. I read that set of numbers 3 times to make sure I had not misread it. What this means, you should understand better than I do. Yuan said. Of course I understood. My theoretical values were already better than the best comparable products on the market by a full grade, and the real test data was even higher than the theory. That meant the design margin I left was exactly right. The match between material and structure was even more ideal than I had expected. Mr. Feng, after this data came out, our board of directors held an emergency meeting. Yuan lifted his teacup and took a sip. The original cooperation plan has been voided. My hand tightened slightly. It is not that we are no longer cooperating, he immediately added. It is that the original plan is no longer worthy of this data. The board has decided to greatly raise the level of cooperation. He pulled a new contract summary from the folder. The exclusive patent authorization fee was tripled. The exclusive patent authorization fee was tripled. The annual technical consultant salary was doubled. The production commission rose from the original 2% to 5%. There was also one additional condition. Ruiheng hoped I would join as a partner in the Precision Transmission Research Institute they were building and serve as chief technical expert. This institute was jointly funded by Ruiheng and to other listed companies, working together as investors. It focused on domestic substitution for core components in high-end industrial robots, especially reducers. My scheme was the institute's first approved project topic. Beside us, Hanjia could not hold back. Engineer Feng, to put it plainly, do you know how much your scheme is worth? How much that scheme of yours is worth? We calculated it internally. If mass production succeeds, the market value it creates within 3 years will be at least over 100 million yuan, and you would take a 5% commission. Yuan shot Hanjia a look. Let Mr. Feng think it through himself. I put down the contract summary. President Qin, may I take this back and review it first? Of course. There is no rush. Take your time and consider it carefully. When I walked out of the Ruiheng building, the sky was already dark. The winter wind blew in from the river, cold enough to bite into bone. I stood beneath the street lamp, looking down at the document in my hand. Fang Zheng called. How did the hearing go? Wait, there is something else. I told him about Ruiheng's new proposal. The other end of the line went silent for about 10 seconds. Then Fang Zheng said, Fang Yuan, those 2 years were not wasted. The hearing result came faster than I expected. 5 days later, the court's written judgment reached my hands. Custody of Fang Nian'an was awarded to his father, Fang Yuan. His mother, by Ningbing, was to pay 2,000 yuan in child support each month. She had visitation rights twice a month. He Ming Chen called. We won. The judge's ruling was based mainly on 3 reasons. First, the defendant has stable and considerable income and meets the conditions to raise the child. Second, since the divorce, the child has been actually raised by the defendant with a stable and healthy living situation. Changing his caregiving environment would harm his physical and mental well-being. Third, the judge specifically mentioned your 2-year nursing log. She found that your sense of responsibility and caregiving ability far exceed the ordinary standard. Thank you, Lawyer He. No need to thank me. By the way, the other side has a 15-day appeal period, but in my experience, they are unlikely to appeal. After hanging up, I sat in my newly rented apartment and looked out the window. It was a 58 square meter, 1-bedroom apartment with a separate living room. Anna's little bed was against the window. The quilt was printed with his favorite Ultraman. 2 pots of pothos sat on the windowsill. When we moved in, Annan had insisted on buying them at the flower market. Sunlight streamed in through the window and fell across the floor, warm and soft. When Annan came home from school, he was holding a little star he had folded from colored paper. Dad, the teacher taught us how to fold this. It is for you. Thank you, Annan. Dad, are you happy today? Yes. Then can we have ice cream today? Yes. Come on. Dad will take you to buy some. He gave a little cheer. Then he ran over to wake me up. I placed that little paper star on my desk, beside Ruiheng's appointment letter. After the judgment came out, Bai Ningbing's side did not appeal, just as expected. But the matter did not end there. The following Saturday morning, I took Annan to the little garden downstairs to sit in the sun. He squatted beside the flower bed, drawing in the dirt with a small twig. A black Porsche Cayenne stopped at the entrance of the compound. The door opened. Chen Boyuan stepped out. He was dressed even more carefully than last time. A dark cashmere coat, polished leather shoes, his hair set with wax, without a strand out of place. When he saw me, he walked straight over. Mr. Fang, have a minute. He sat down on the bench beside me. His movements were perfectly natural, as if we had been old friends for years. I heard about the lawsuit result. No need to congratulate me. He smiled faintly. Mr. Fang, I am a businessman. I prefer to speak directly. Bai Ningbing has not been doing well lately. She cannot sleep through the night. Her work has been affected too. She actually regrets it deeply. Whatever she regrets has nothing to do with me anymore. I know, but the fact remains that Annan is her child. I am not here to fight over anything. I just wanted to tell you this. If Annan needs anything in the future, financially or educationally, I can help. Consider it a personal gesture from me. I looked at him. Chen Boyuan, let me ask you something. Tell me whether your divorce procedures are finished. Tell me whether your divorce procedures are finished. His smile paused for a beat. That is being handled. The procedures are underway. I repeated it. In other words, you are still married right now. He said nothing. A man whose own divorce is not even final comes here to talk to me about my ex-wife and my son. Do you think that looks normal? At last, a crack appeared in his expression. Mr. Fang, Annan does not need your money. He does not need your help. If you want to be good to my ex-wife, that is between you two. But do not reach toward my son. I stood up. Annan, let us go. Annan patted the mud off his clothes and ran over to take my hand. As we walked past Chen Boyuan, Annan looked up at him once. Then he turned to me and asked, Dad, who is that man? Someone I do not know. He did not ask again. I held his hand and took him upstairs. All the way up, he told me who had cried at kindergarten today, who had brought a huge dinosaur toy, and who snored especially loudly during nap time. His voice was soft and bright, warm in the dry, cold winter air. After I signed the formal contract with Ruiheng, my life began to change in visible ways. First came work. The Precision Transmission Research Institute was set up quickly. Yuan personally oversaw it. Each of the 3 investors sent key technical staff. As chief technical expert, I led the reducer scheme's productization development team. They assigned 8 people to me. All of them were experienced engineers. At the first project meeting, there was an older engineer named Yuan. He was the one from the technical validation meeting, the man who had questioned me about gear machining precision. He sat across from me and looked me over from head to toe. Xiaofeng, how old are you? 32, he muttered. When I was 32, I was still in the workshop learning tool grinding from my master. The others laughed. Yuan did not. He tapped the table. Do not judge him by his age. I studied the process root in his scheme for 3 days, and I could not find a flaw. That kind of foundation is not made sitting in an office. It is ground out year by year. No one laughed after that. Once the R&D work was on track, I took NGÅN to school every morning, then went to work at the institute. At 6 in the evening, I left on time to pick him up. Yuan knew my situation. He never scheduled meetings at night. The child comes first. With that brain of yours, you will not stay idle even at home. Technical problems can be solved during the day. When the first month's consultant fee arrived, I stared at the number in my banking app and sat at my desk for several minutes. Then I went to the mall. I bought NGÓN 3 new padded coats, 2 pairs of warm cotton shoes, a full art supply kit, and the transformer he had wanted for ages. NGÓN hugged that transformer and would not let it go. Dad, this is so cool. Do you like it? I love it. Do you remember saying you wanted a puppy? His eyes lit up. Can we have one now? Wait a little longer. When we move into a bigger place. I can wait. After we got home, I put the new things away and called Feng Zheng about the lawyer's fees you covered last time and the money for that workstation. I told you not to mention money to me. I did not say I was paying you back. I mean that old workstation is useless sitting with you. I want to get a new one, so let me count the old one as rented from you. What are you doing? He clicked his tongue on the other end. If you really want to thank me, bring NGÓN over to my place for dinner sometime. When that boy left last time, he took apart all my building blocks. I still have not put them back together. This weekend works. I will make braised pork ribs. After hanging up, I opened my computer and checked my work email. Hanjia from Ruiheng had sent me in a mail. The subject line was, Engineer Feng, Yuanye. That ID is yours, right? The body had only one line. A client came to inspect Ruiheng today. While chatting, he mentioned that on an engineering outsourcing platform, they had once worked with a designer named Yuanye. His work was fast and excellent. Then he suddenly stopped taking orders. They had been looking for him ever since. From the technical style he described, I thought it sounded like you. I replied with 2 words. It is me. Hanjia replied instantly. I knew it. That client is Dongyu Precision's technical vice president. They are one of the top 3 domestic precision component suppliers. He had been tracking Yuanye's work on the platform for nearly a year. Tracking him. His exact words were that Yuanye's design approach was completely different from anything else on the market. Every scheme had its own originality. If he is willing to work as an independent technical consultant, we will sign a long-term cooperation deal immediately. I closed the email and did not reply. The Yuanye ID was how I earned money for NNS milk powder during my hardest days. Those memories of rushing work late at night, mixed with my father-in-law's muffled calls, the smell of urine bags, and my mother-in-law's cold sarcasm, all blurred together. They were not pleasant memories, but it was precisely those days that forced my craft into what it is now. After more than a month of intense work, the first physical slope reducer prototype was completed. I stood in the laboratory and watched the silver-white cylindrical component being installed on the test bench. Yuan personally ran the bench test. The motor drove the reducer into motion. The sensor readings began to flicker. 7 or 8 engineers in the lab all stared at the screen, barely daring to breathe. Less than 10 minutes later, the first set of data stabilized. Yuan took off his gloves. Transmission efficiency, 98.7%. Return accuracy, under 1 arc minute. A long suppressed cheer erupted in the laboratory. Engineer Zhao grinned broadly and rubbed his hands together twice. Hanjia's voice even cracked. This data. Damn it, this is the best in China. Watch your language. Yuan shot him a look, but when he turned back to look at me, there was light in those old eyes too. Xiaofeng, in those 2 years, how on earth did you come up with this thing? During the day, when I turned the old man over, The force angle at my wrist and the range of joint motion gave me the inspiration. He froze for a moment, then shook his head. Your brain really works differently. The day after the test report came out, Yuan arranged a small investor briefing. It was not for the public. It was an investor briefing for 3 investment parties. Senior executives from all 3 companies attended. Yuan gave the report himself. The slides showed comparison charts of the test data. Our prototype was compared with public data from similar Japanese and German products. The difference was clear at a glance. We had not only caught up onto core indicators, we had even surpassed them. After the meeting, the heads of the 3 investment parties lined up to shake my hand. The chairman of one company held my hand and would not let go. He said one thing. Xiaofeng, do you know what this thing means? For domestic industrial robots, half the cost is stuck in the reducer. Because we cannot make good ones ourselves. We can only import them at high prices. If this scheme can reach mass production, import substitution alone could save the industry tens of billions of yuan every year. I withdrew my hand and smiled politely. There is still a long road ahead. From prototype to mass production, we still need at least a year of engineering validation. There is no rush. He patted my shoulder. As long as the path is right, time is not the problem. After the meeting, Yuan kept me behind to have tea in his office. Once the mass production line is built, will you stay at the institute and keep doing technical work, or come out and build something of your own? President Qin. What do you mean? What I mean is, if you want to start your own company, Ruiheng can be your first strategic investor. I held my teacup and did not answer right away. No rush. Let us finish what is in front of us first. There will be plenty of time to talk about starting a company later. Another 2 months passed. Spring arrived. NGÓN had adjusted well to kindergarten. His teachers said he had a gift for drawing and suggested I enroll him in a children's art class. I found an art studio with a good reputation and took him there for weekend lessons. Teacher Zhang at the studio looked at several of NGÓN's drawings and was genuinely surprised. This child has an instinct for color and composition. Does he draw often at home? Almost every day. If he is guided well, he may be suited for design someday. She did not know that I came from a design background myself. The theme of NGÓN's first lesson was my dream. He drew a big house. Beside it stood a tree. Under the tree was a little dog. At the doorway of the house stood 2 people, one big and one small. NGÓN, what is this? Teacher Zhang asked. This is my dad and me. And the little dog. That is the dog we are going to have someday. Dad said we can get one after we wait a little longer. I stood outside the art studio, watching him through the glass. In my heart, the words "wait a little longer" suddenly became something real. Maybe we would not have to wait much longer. That afternoon, I received a message. It was not from Feng Zheng, and it was not from Engineer Zhao. It came from a number I had barely contacted in years. An old colleague of mine, an engineer from my old team at the auto parts company, named Tangji. Long time no see. There is something I wanted to tell you. I do not know whether you still care. That reducer optimization scheme from back at the company, the one you left unfinished after you resigned. I worked on that scheme in my own time. It had nothing to do with the company's project. I know, but the problem is on the company side. After you left, Engineer Liu dug out some notes and sketches you left behind and had the new engineers continue with them, pushing forward a project in a similar direction. My fingers froze. What do you mean? I mean, they may have referenced your technical path. Recently, that project produced results, and the company is preparing a patent application. I took a sip of water. What exactly is in the patent they plan to apply for? I am not on that project team anymore, so I do not know the specific details. But judging from the public technical abstract, the core idea overlaps heavily with your old scheme. I have my own patent, a utility model patent, filed in my own name. I know. That is why I am telling you. If their application succeeds, it may conflict with your patent. You had better prepare in advance. I thanked him and hung up. I leaned back in my chair and looked at the ceiling. Engineer Liu, my former project team leader, when I resigned back then, he had said something to me. The thinking behind your reducer scheme is very fresh. What a shame. What a shame. So what he meant by a shame was that once I left, they could take it and use it. I called Feng Zheng. Something happened. My former company may be trying to steal my patent. Feng Zheng cursed on the other end. Do you have evidence? I do. All the original design documents, sketches, and calculation notes are on my computer. The file creation dates are half a year before I resigned. Also, the date of my patent application was before their project even started. Then do not be afraid. Gather the evidence first. If necessary, use legal means. I spent 73 days sorting through all the original files from back then. Creation dates, modification dates, technical details, all of it left a trace. I also found 2 key files. One was in a mail I sent to Engineer Liu before I resigned, with drafts of part of the technical scheme attached. The other was Engineer Liu's reply at the time. The idea is good. When you have time, you can develop it further. That email was dated 3 months before I resigned. In other words, my scheme came first. Engineer Liu knew about it, and after I resigned, the company only then began a project in a similar direction. The timeline was very clear. I organized all the materials and sent them to lawyer He-Ming Chang. After reading them, He-Ming Chang replied, "The evidence chain is complete. If they really apply for a patent that conflicts with yours, you can file an invalidation request. They cannot win, unless I had no other choice." I did not want to fight that kind of lawsuit. "Then, what do you plan to do?" "Wait and see whether they contact me first." Sure enough, I did not have to wait long. A week later, Engineer Liu called. "Feng Yuan, long time no see." His tone was unnaturally warm. "Engineer Liu, get to the point. Here is the thing. Recently, the company has been advancing a reducer optimization project that is somewhat similar to your old idea. When our legal department was doing a patent search, they found you had a prior utility model patent. You know, when you were still at the company, you had already started working in this direction. The company thinks I cut him off. I developed that scheme in my own time, on my own computer, in my own home. The design concept, the theoretical derivation, and every technical document were all my own original work. They had nothing to do with the company's project. I did not say they had anything to do with the company. I was just saying that when I resigned back then, I failed to hand this over. Now that you have discovered its value, you want to find an excuse to take it." The other end of the line went silent. "Engineer Liu, that email I sent you before I resigned is still in your inbox, isn't it?" A longer silence followed. "Feng Yuan, if the company wants to discuss cooperation, have your legal department contact my lawyer directly if you want to sue. That makes it even simpler." "Wait, there is no need to take it that far." "Then do not touch my patent. Tell your legal department this. I have all the evidence from my prior patent. The timeline, technical documents, email correspondence, file creation records. Not a single piece is missing." I hung up. 3 days later, He-Ming Chang told me the other side's lawyer's letter had arrived. But it was not a lawsuit. It was a settlement intent letter. They abandoned the patent application in the same direction and proposed using technical licensing to use part of the related ideas. He-Ming Chang asked me, "What do you think? If they want to use my work?" Then I set the terms. "Name your price." I gave him a number. He-Ming Chang coughed on the other end of the phone. "Will they agree to that? If they do not, forget it. Ruiheng does not need that one company." 3 days later, the other side replied and agreed. When I received the news, I was picking NGÂN up from school. NGÂN drew a cat at the art studio today. It was an orange, round little cat. Look, is it pretty? It is. We should give it a name later. Let's call it Orange. After the patent matter was settled, discussion of the name Feng Yuan in the industry began to grow. First, the contents of Ruiheng Intelligence investor briefing somehow got out. It was probably someone from one of the investors who mentioned it on an industry forum. There is a young engineer named Feng Yuan who came up with the reducer scheme. The data is frighteningly good. Then Dongyu Precision's technical vice president publicly said at an industry salon, "We previously worked with a designer named Yuanye on an outsourcing platform for a long time. A designer named Yuanye. He is the most gifted mechanical designer I have ever seen. Only later did I learn that he was Feng Yuan from Ruiheng Research Institute." Overnight, the two identities merged. Yuanye's work on the outsourcing platform was dug up. One project after another was picked apart by people on technical forums. Someone wrote in a post, "This man did not hold a formal job for 2 years. He just used an old computer to take outsourcing work on the platform, and the things he made were stronger than the finished products from many professional teams. Who exactly is this guy?" Someone replied, "For those 2 years, he stayed home full-time caring for his paralyzed father-in-law. Only after the old man fell asleep at night did he take jobs." The comment section exploded. A talent like that was buried for the whole years. It wasn't that he was buried. His ex-wife's family used him like a live-in nanny for 2 years. That is insane. What is going on with his ex-wife now? I heard they divorced. Apparently, she thought he had no future. Then the moment he made his move, he produced a core technology for domestic substitution. Who wrote this script? Feng Zheng forwarded all these discussions to me. He never got tired of sending me screenshots of different posts, along with piles of exclamation marks and ha-ha-has. I did not reply, but NN's kindergarten teacher tagged me in the parent group chat. NN's dad, we saw the news. We truly had no idea you were this impressive. NN said his dad works with gears. We thought you repaired bicycles. A string of messages from other parents followed. NN's dad is so low-key. When NN said his dad was raising him alone, I thought things must be hard for them. Turns out he was just hiding his light. NN will definitely have an inventor's mind too. I left the group chat and kept revising the drawings. After Yuanye's true identity spread through the industry, more and more people came looking for me. There were headhunters and investors, and company HR recruiters trying to poach me. My phone received at least 2 or 3 calls from strangers every day. All of them were probing for cooperation opportunities. Some quoted annual salary figures right over the phone. A few even offered better terms than Ruiheng. I politely turned them all down. After Qin Yuanshan heard about it, during lunch one day, he smiled and asked me, "Not tempted? The cooperation terms are secondary. What matters is the team and the direction. If I abandon the Institute's project halfway through, I would be letting Engineer Yuan, Engineer Zhao, and the others down. You really do value loyalty. It is professional ethics." He pointed at me with his chopsticks. "When your father-in-law had his accident back then, you thought the same way, didn't you? Once you had taken something halfway, you could not just drop it." I picked up a piece of braised pork belly. I said nothing. People like you. Your strength and your weakness are the same thing. You take things too seriously. With technology. And with people too. The good part is, your work is excellent. The bad part is, people who are not worth it can use you. President Qin, why are you being so timid today? Getting old. After seeing enough things, I cannot help saying a few reflective words. All right, eat. Day by day, life settled into something solid. Annan made good friends at kindergarten. Every day when he came home from school, he chattered nonstop. He was nothing like the child he had been when we first left that home. Quiet and withdrawn. His drawing improved quickly. Teacher Zhang said his sense of space was far beyond other children his age. Maybe it was inherited. That weekend, I took him to a pet adoption center. A little yellow and white corgi lay inside a cage. Whenever it saw someone, it wagged its tail. Annan crouched in front of the cage, both hands gripping the bars, his eyes shining. Dad, this is the one. Are you sure? I am sure. It smiled at me. Corgis do not smile, but in a 5-year-old child's eyes, the whole world can smile. We brought it home. Annan named it Mantou, because it was as round as a steamed bun. On Mana's first day home, it peed in the living room. Annan crouched beside it, staring at the puddle. Then he said to Manu very seriously, "Mantou, you cannot do that. You have to hold it in." As I wiped the floor with a mop, I could not help laughing. It was the most genuine laugh I had had in 2 years. One weekend, I cooked. Ruiheng Research Institute held an open day. They invited industry experts and companies to visit. As the technical lead, I had to give a technical report on site. I was not really good at occasions like that. I was more used to facing computers and drawings, not speaking to a room full of people. But I forced myself to go up anyway. The report lasted 40 minutes. The response was unexpectedly good. Nearly 50 people sat below the stage. Many of them were top experts in the industry. During the question and answer session, they asked more than a dozen questions. Some were very sharp, but all of them were within my field of knowledge. After the report ended, someone came over specifically to shake my hand. He was an older man in his 60s. His surname was Lin, and he was deputy chair of the Domestic Robotics Society. Xiao Feng, your scheme is one I had already seen in Ruiheng's internal materials. Hearing you explain it yourself today confirmed it even more. Your double arc tooth profile correction idea is globally leading. Teacher Lin, you flatter me. I'm not flattering you. When you have time, come to the society and give an academic presentation. Let more people know we have this technology domestically. All right. Also, he took a business card from his pocket. This is the contact information for the Chinese Academy of Sciences Institute of Mechanics. They have a topic under the National QR&D program and are looking for cooperation units. Your scheme fits extremely well. If you are interested, I can introduce you. I took the card. Thank you, Teacher Lin. After the event, I stood outside the institute building, watching cars leave the parking lot one after another. A car stopped in front of me. The window rolled down. It was Yuan Nian'an. Xiao Fang, get in. I will take you back. No need, Engineer Yuan. I can make my own way back later. His tone left no room for refusal. I got in. He did not drive off right away. Instead, he sat in the driver's seat and looked at me for a while. You did well today. Engineer Yuan, that is your third compliment today. Can an old man not praise someone? He stepped on the accelerator. Let me tell you something. Among the people who came to the open day today, there was someone named Biao. You know him, right? I froze. What was he doing there? He runs an auto repair shop. Recently, he has been trying to shift into industrial components support. Somehow, he got an invitation and slipped in. He saw me. More than saw you. When you gave the report, he was sitting in the last row. I noticed him, because he was the only one in the room who looked absolutely shocked. His mouth was hanging open, like he had seen a ghost. I said nothing. Yuan Nian'an glanced at me. What is he to you? My former brother-in-law. He drove for a while. Then how did he treat you before? Like free labor. And now, he has nothing to do with me. Yuan Nian'an nodded. He did not ask anymore. The news that Biao had seen me at the open day soon reached the Bai family. How did I know? Because 3 days later, Bai Ningbing called me. She had not contacted me on her own in a long time. Every month, the child support was transferred on time. For visitation, she notified me 1 day in advance. Everything followed the rules. Not one extra word. This time, when she called, her tone was different from before. That lofty arrogance was gone. In its place was something I could not quite name. Fang Yuan, Xiao Hao told me. You are a technical expert at Ruiheng Intelligent now. When did that happen? A few months ago. Why did you not tell me? What was there to tell? We are already divorced. She was silent on the other end for a long while. Xiao Hao told me about that patent of yours. All the experts there called it domestically leading. When did you develop that patent? I started it before I resigned. Later, during the 2 years I cared for your father at your house. On the nights I could not sleep, I refined it in my head. There was another silence. Fang Yuan, it's by Ningbing. If you are trying to say you regret it, do not. I am not. I do not need your regret. NGÂN is doing well. At his new school, he has adjusted very well. He has a gift for drawing. He has made new friends. We adopted a little corgi. He is happy every day. That is enough. She stopped speaking. After a long while, her voice became very soft. Your dad, my dad. He has not been well lately. The new caregiver is not careful enough. He keeps saying no one is as good as you. The caregiving notes I wrote, are they still on your refrigerator? If they are, just follow them. If there are problems, you can call me and ask, but only about your father's care. Anything else? No. Then I hung up. I lowered my head and went back to drawing plans. NGÂN came holding Mantou, the corgi, and ran out of the bedroom. Dad, Mantou learned to shake hands. Look, he crouched in front of Mantou, held out his hand, and said, Mantou, shake. The corgi tilted its head, then placed one paw on his palm. And NGÄN's laughter echoed through the small but warm living room. When summer arrived, the engineering validation of the reducer scheme entered a critical stage. A production line had been completed in Ruiheng's factory. Every day, I practically lived in the workshop, working with Yuan Nian'an and engineer Zhao, watching every step of production. Mass production and prototype units were completely different things. A prototype could be finished by hand. Mass production demanded consistency and yield rate. Every process parameter had to be tuned again and again. Any tiny deviation could scrap an entire batch. During that period, I almost lived at the factory. In the morning, I took NGÄN to school, then drove to the factory. Ruiheng assigned me a company car. At night, I rushed back to pick up NGÄN, settled him in, then kept handling problems remotely. Sometimes NGÄN would hold Mantou and sit on the living room carpet waiting for me. One day, I worked overtime and did not get home until 10 at night. When I opened the door, NGÄN had already fallen asleep on the sofa. Mantou lay by his feet. Seeing me come back, it wagged its tail twice. In NGÄN's hand, he was still clutching a drawing. I gently slid the drawing out. On it were an adult and a child. The adult was working in front of a pile of gears. The child stood beside him, handing him a cup of water. In the upper right corner, a few crooked words were written. The teacher probably helped him right. Dad, keep going. I carried him to bed and tucked him in. Half asleep, he mumbled, Dad is home. Dad is home. Go to sleep. He turned over and sank back into deep sleep. I stuck that drawing on the refrigerator. It was the second thing posted on my refrigerator. The first was from when I moved out of that house. It was the sheet I had written for my father-in-law. The caregiving instructions. I had printed an extra copy for myself. One sheet was the past. One sheet was the present. By the end of August, the production line commissioning was finally complete. The first mass-produced batch of reducers passed every inspection. The yield rate reached 97.3%. In the industry, that number was explosive. Ruiheng Intelligence stock price, over the 2 trading days after the news broke, rose by 18%. Yuan opened a bottle of champagne in the factory workshop to celebrate. He said it was a good bottle he had saved for 3 years, waiting for this very day. Yuanye held a paper cup and took a sip. He frowned. Too sweet. Baiju is better. Then he looked at me and said, Xiaofeng, do you know what that 97.3% yield rate you just mentioned means? The mass production yield rate for comparable imported products is usually between 94 and 95%. You beat them by 2 to 3 percentage points. I know. Then why do you look so unhappy? I was wondering, what caused the remaining 0.7% to be scrapped? Yuan glared at me, then burst out laughing. You stubborn mule. That night, I picked up NGÅN and took him out for hot pot. He had never had hot pot before. Back in that house, I cooked all the meals. Everything was plain and watery, because my father-in-law could only eat liquid food. The whole family's meals were very bland. NGÅN sat across from me, chopsticks in hand, staring at the bubbling broth, his eyes shining. Dad, what is this bubbling thing? Can we eat hot pot? Of course we can. Here, Dad will cook you a slice of beef. He took the first bite of hot pot beef in his life. He chewed twice, then narrowed his eyes and said, So good. Take whatever you want to eat. Really anything. He stood up, ran to the food area, and lined up very seriously for a long time. When he came back, he was carrying a plate of shrimp dumplings and a plate of fish balls. Dad, you eat too. He picked up a shrimp dumpling and put it into the pot, then watched it with grave concentration. Teacher said shrimp dumplings need 3 minutes to cook. 3 minutes later, he scooped the shrimp dumpling out with a ladle and put it in my bowl. This is for Dad. I ate it. The shrimp dumpling was scalding, but it tasted good. By autumn, Ruiheng Research Institute's mass production line officially went into production. The first batch of products was sent to 3 leading domestic robotics companies, and feedback data came back one after another. All of it met the standards. Some indicators exceeded expectations. Orders began lining up. At an internal meeting, Yuan announced that the institute's first-year revenue was expected to exceed 80 million yuan, and even a conservative estimate for the second year would pass 100 million. My patent commission had begun generating real income. When the first commission payment arrived, I sat at my desk, staring at that number, and thought of many things. I thought of that winter 2 years ago, when I walked out of my father-in-law's room carrying a basin of warm water. I thought of the moment by Ningbing pushed the divorce agreement in front of me. I thought of that rainy evening, when NGÅN ran downstairs holding a dry towel, wiping my hair with his clumsy little hands. I thought of Fang Zheng hauling a second-hand workstation home, saying, use it for now. Do not bring up money with me. I thought of Yuan taking off his glasses at the technical validation meeting, turning to Yuan and saying, this young man, how do you plan to use him? I thought of my father-in-law sitting in his wheelchair, his back to the doorway, his only hand that could still move, lifting slightly, and giving a soft wave. Go. This family has wronged you. He knew everything. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I had not called in a long time. It rang for a long while. At last, a hoarse voice answered. Hello, Dad. It is me, Xiaofeng. The other end of the line stayed silent for a long time. Then came a muffled sound, like laughter and crying tangled together. Xiaofeng, are you all right? I am fine, Dad. How is your health? Same as ever. He coughed twice. You do not need to worry about me anymore. Are you still taking your blood pressure medicine on time? I am. What about the bed sores? Have they come back? No. The caregiver is all right. She is just a little clumsy. That is good, Dad. I will come see you in a while. Do not come. I will come. He fell silent again. Xiaofeng, you are better to me than my own son. I hung up the phone, sat at the desk, and did not move for a long time. NGÂN pushed the door open and came in. Dad, were you on the phone? Grandpa. Which grandpa? The grandpa Dad used to take care of. NGÂN thought for a moment. Is he doing okay? He is all right. Then can we go see him? Yes. Before winter set in, I did one thing. With the money from my first commission, in a place not far from NNS school, I bought an apartment, 3 bedrooms and a living room, 87 square meters with a small balcony. Not big, but enough. On moving day, Fang Zheng came to help. He stood in the empty living room and looked around. Not bad. Much better than that lousy apartment of mine. You should replace that apartment too. I live alone. And I directed Mantou to run laps around the new living room. The corgi's short legs were moving incredibly fast. After 2 laps, he flopped down, exhausted. Mantou, you are too weak. NGÂN crouched in front of him and shook his head. Fang Zheng watched him and smiled, then turned to look at me. Things are getting better. A year ago, you rolled that battered suitcase and stood at my door. Thinking back, do you regret it? Regret what? Those 2 years after you quit, I moved a box of books onto the shelf and thought for a while. I do not regret it. Those 2 years made one thing clear to me. What is truly worth caring about and what is not? NGÂN. And this. I pointed to my own head. No one can take away what isn't here. Fang Zheng nodded. Come on, let us go eat. My treat. Didn't you say last time you'd treat me? That was last time. Today is your housewarming. I am treating. We took NGÂN and Mantou downstairs. It was a winter evening. The sun set early. The streetlights had come on. NGÂN walked ahead, holding Mantu's leash in one hand, singing a nursery rhyme he had learned in kindergarten. His voice rang bright and clear in the cold air. Fang Zheng walked beside me, his hands tucked in his pockets. Right, I forgot to tell you. That Chen boy Yuan has nothing to do with me. I know, but you might want to hear this. He never got divorced at all. His wife exposed him online last month. He was tangled up with several women, and one of them was your ex-wife. The post blew up for days. Even his company's business partners backed away. I stopped walking. Does Bai Ningbing know? She probably does. It is all over the internet. I kept walking. It has nothing to do with me anymore. I know. I just think. Fang Zheng paused. What goes around comes around. Ahead of us, NGÂN looked back and shouted, Dad. Uncle Fang, hurry up. Mantou is hungry. Coming. I quickened my pace, walking toward that small figure ahead, bouncing lightly with every step. 3 years later, Ruiheng Precision Transmission Research Institute had become a benchmark in China's high-end reducer field. The mass production line had expanded twice. Annual capacity had increased 5-fold. The products not only held the leading share of the domestic market, but had also begun exporting to industrial robotics companies in Southeast Asia and Europe. My name appeared on several papers and industry journals. Once, on CCTV Finance Channel, in a special program about Chinese manufacturing and domestic substitution of core components. The host mentioned young engineer Feng Yuan and his team's breakthrough in slow producer technology. On the day the program aired, Fang Zheng took the video link and posted it in our old university dorm group chat. No one had spoken there in a long time. The moment the video went up, the group exploded. Holy crap, is that Fang Yuan? Fang Yuan from our dorm is on CCTV. Legend. Absolute legend. Wait, hold on. Did he not quit and go home to be a house husband? How did he suddenly end up on television? Fang Zheng replied with only one word. I left the group chat and went back to revising drawings. NGÂN was already in primary school. In first grade, his marks were above average. He was still very good at drawing. His art teacher said his spatial imagination was far beyond children his age and suggested I enter him in a children's creative design competition. So he signed up. His preliminary entry was a simple reducer model made from cardboard and rubber bands. The judges studied the little one for a long time. Where did your inspiration come from? My dad makes gears. The whole room laughed. He made it to the finals. Mantou had grown into a round adult corgi. When he walked, his backside swayed from side to side. Every day after school, the first thing NGÂN did was rush through the door, hug Mantou, then lie on the floor and talk to him face to face. Mantou, were you good at home today? Did you steal my cookies? Mantou tilted his head and looked at him, his tail wagging like a propeller. Days like these were once more than I dared to dream of. One day near the end of the year, I took NGÂN to see my father-in-law. It was my 3rd visit since the divorce. Yao Kuiping was not home. Only a caregiver in her 40s was there. My father-in-law sat in his wheelchair. He was even thinner than 3 years ago, but his spirits were decent. When he saw NGÓN and me come in, the one hand he could still move lifted and grasped twice at the air. "NGÓN, come here. Let Grandpa have a look at you." NGÓN walked over and obediently let him pat his head. "You have grown taller." My father-in-law's voice was hoarse, but his tone was much calmer. I checked his physical condition. There were no new bed sores on his back. The catheter hygiene was acceptable. The muscle atrophy in his legs was within the expected range. "Annie, how has he been eating lately?" "Not bad. He can eat more than half a bowl now. He just gets irritable sometimes and calls for people in the middle of the night. He calls at night because he is uncomfortable turning over. When you help him turn, support his lower back first, then turn his shoulders. Do not push him directly. That will hurt him. I will show you." Beside the bed, I demonstrated the proper turning technique. The caregiver watched carefully from the side and nodded. "You are more professional than what they taught us in training." 2 years of caring for him taught me. My father-in-law kept looking at me, without saying a word. Beside us, NGÓN pulled a drawing from his school bag. In the picture was an old man sitting in a wheelchair. A little boy stood beside him. The little boy held up a flower. "Grandpa, I drew this. This is for you." My father-in-law took the drawing and studied it for a long time. Then he reached out with that trembling hand and gently patted NGÓN on the head. I crouched beside the wheelchair. "Dad, take care of yourself. Call me anytime if you need anything." "Xiaofeng." He turned his head and looked at me. 3 years had carved deeper lines into his face, but in those cloudy eyes, there was something very clean. "Thank you." It was the first time in 3 years he had said those 2 words to me. "No need to thank me." I stood up, took NGÓN with me, and left the house that had once suffocated me. As we walked out of the building entrance, NGÓN looked up and asked me, "Dad, why was Grandpa crying?" He was not crying. It was the wind. NGÓN thought for a moment, but did not ask again. He reached out and hugged me. The winter sunlight was pale, but it felt warm on our bodies. We walked side by side along the sidewalk. Our shadows, one long and one short, fell across the ground. The door behind us had already closed. The road ahead was still long, but every step beneath my feet landed solidly on the ground.